What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse. I jumped in because Biggs took a second there. I'm not normally used to jumping in, but Biggs needs a second to finish, so I'll.
Should we take two?
I'll finish him
Welcome
off.
to the Dynasty Pulse with Greiberg and Biggs and Chev. We got a special guest today, Jeremiah Retzlaff. It's a player profiler news desk four-way right now, and the only thing missing is Schultzy. We hope you're back there rifling around in drawers and not murdering people, Schultzy. How's it going, everybody? We are here for another week of studs and duds, starts and sits, stock up and stock down. We are trying to help build your champion.
Yeah, and it's week 14. Playoffs are around the corner, and Dynasty is about to ramp up. It's been ramping up all season, but it really starts to get fun in the off season because us.
Raise your hand if you've already been eliminated from a Dynasty playoff.
Right here. I sold Mike Evans to somebody in this room for a first round pick in a league I thought it was destined for the playoffs. Just didn't end up working out with some injuries. But Jeremiah, man, welcome to the show. Tell us about the first round draft pick you sold for Mike Evans.
All right, so we talk about in Dynasty, every league is different. Well, in this league, we had a market that was created. Looking at your record, Mike, you're a little bit lower than you had expected, and I am a contender. And you equate the late round first, 2025, for Mike Evans. I'm getting a piece right now that helps you, and you're getting a piece that efficiently helps you. If you and I are both at the top, we're not making that deal. We're both at the bottom. We're not making that deal. So it's very interesting and neat how I can pull off that trade and you can pull it off the other way reflexively. But then in another league, it just isn't going to happen. There's going to be gridlock. So this time of year, really pay attention to the opportunities that present themselves. Like Biggs was saying, we're in this stretch run where we have all these different playoff opportunities. You're at some deadlines if you have them. If you don't, even better. You can take advantage of those markets that are created. And you have to be sharp to the leagues that you're in. What do you think of that, Mike?
I think that's great. And Biggs, another guy, that traded for Mike Evans this week was you. Indeed. In a Dynasty league. He's the hot commodity right now. I had a player profiler short that went on the main channel today about Mike Evans as a league winner. I think the Bucks are going to be feeding him the ball to get that 1,000 yards, and they're in a playoff run right now that they need to win these games. So Mike Evans, a guy that I'm buying as well in the leagues that I'm contending in. Tell us about your trade that you made today, Biggs.
So a lot of you know about the Scott Fishbowl, and hopefully you know about Craig Schmucker's Dynasty Fishbowl. He put together a bunch of different Dynasty leagues, all with a different fish theme. So I'm in the Goldfish League, and this is the second year. So we're year over year, and it's draft picks, and it's all that stuff. And the thing that makes this league so cool is that every year the league rules change based on the fishbowl rules. So right now it's totally tight end premium, etc. I am a contending team. There are 6 playoff spots. I am in 4th or 5th. I don't remember now. But I pretty much have a playoff spot locked. And somebody got into the chat today and said that Alvin Kamara and Mike Evans were available. Well, my only good running back at this point is David Montgomery. I'm running with like a bunch of tight ends that are carrying me. Brock Bowers, Cole Kmet, TJ Hawkinson, whatever. Their tight end premium is absolutely carrying me, and my quarterbacks as well. But I was like, heck yeah, I could use Mike Evans and Alvin Kamara down the stretch and through the playoffs. So I sent out an offer. He was like, I don't want Zach Moss. I just want picks. And I was like, fair. He didn't want Evan Ingram or Zach Moss. So I was like, all right, here's a couple picks, and then grabbed them, and then Aidan O'Connell, and I'm ready to rock.
So, Chev, what about you, man? I think these are great trades both you guys made for your respective contending teams. Do you have any trades that you made in the last 24 to 48 hours in a Dynasty league that you want to talk about or seen go down?
Well, I went through, and I would love to get you guys' opinion on this because I'm kind of in a conundrum with a team with a bunch of young players, but a bunch of aging vets that didn't perform. So I love the opportunity to trade for Mike Evans. Trading Mike Evans for a late first feels wonderful. On a bunch of teams where I had Derrick Henry, I sold him for a late first a few weeks ago, and that did not feel great. I wish I could have got more, but he's 30, so everybody's like, "Oh, he's 30." But if you can get Mike Evans on a contender, like, I absolutely love that move. But I wanted to get you guys' opinion because a guy came to me and offered me a trade. He offered me, I want to say, give me a second, because my counter though was he wants Devon Achane, and he offered me like a first round pick and a middling wide receiver. My counter was Devon Achane for his first, which would be late, and Brian Thomas Jr. and a 2026 second. So if I'm going to rebuild, I need a chess piece that I feel like could be equivalent to Achane, who's with Tua by far and away the RB1.
Yeah, I mean, he's I like Achane as far as his assets go. I'm not maybe a long-term buyer of his size and stuff like that. So I'm going to take his name. I'm going to take his name value. I'm going to take as much as I can out of him. And if you could pull Brian Thomas Jr. out of that, plus a first, and all that, yes, I'm doing that. Take the name value. This guy who's probably a contender needing that running back slot. Yeah, I think that's a great trade for you. And I would do that in a heartbeat. I think you're asking a lot. And if you're willing, if you can get that out of that trade, yeah, 100%. But I just don't know if that's going to happen.
No, it did not happen. He didn't want to part with the first and the second.
Yeah.
The original trade was Devon Achane for Jonathan Brooks and a 2025 first. And so I was like, I'm not moving from young running back Achane and a late first and Jonathan Brooks. I didn't want to do that. So that's why I was like, BTJ. I probably would have done it for BTJ in a first. But
it would have been different if Chuba didn't sign his extension.
Exactly.
I still think that Jonathan Brooks has got quite the value. He's the better back, the more talented back, more rounded. He's got the pass catching chops. I think the Chuba is a situation where they see his value, and I see him as a number 2 guy. This offense is ascending behind Bryce Young. I see them having big plans for Jonathan Brooks in the long run. I see it being more of like 65-35 split in the future. Chuba has done himself proud, but don't get me wrong, Jonathan Brooks is going to be the guy. He's the most talented. He would have been a first-round draft capital running back had he not been injured, and I just see it happening that way in an offense with Canales running the board here. I like Jonathan Brooks longer term, and if I can get him on the cheap right now, I'm doing it. I'm getting them under name value right now because they see that Chuba contract. I love the situation for Brooks, and I'm buying him where I can because people are selling him cheaper now because of the Chuba contract. And I love Chuba Hubbard, but we got to get in reality here. All these backfields, there's very seldom where you'll see nowadays where there's going to be a workhorse back like a Saquon Barkley or a Bijan Robinson. You're not seeing that as much anymore. And, Jonathan Brooks is going to be, part of that group now.
I agree. I think that the NFL is going to move more to a 2-back system where those 2 guys handle 85 to 90% of the opportunities. And that's just kind of where the NFL is headed. So, if you can get the leader of that has a defined role, like Jonathan Brooks is probably going to be the pass catcher and cut into at least split the down-to-down work, I think that's a great pull. But I just, like I said, I have a hard time moving on from Achane and that offense with his utilization. Like it's almost like hey, here's a king's ransom if you want. I need a king's ransom if I'm going to move off from him. He's 23 years old. He's got 2 more years on his deal after this one. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of variables there. That's an interesting situation, and if you could have gotten that earlier deal with the first and the second and BJ, you know what I mean? Like you're laughing, but yeah, not many people are getting rid of Brian Thomas Jr. at this stage. They see the value there and how he's come out, like he's definitely emerging in that class as a top 5 pick, if not, top 3 at this stage, like, cause he's being in that same conversation. Ladd McConkey's looked really, really good. And it's hard to get him out of that top 5. And let's move on, because there's some conversations here I want to get into, and there's some juicy ones here that we got to probe. So
I like juice.
Yeah. So Biggs.
Yeah, that's me.
Let's get into this, because this Bucky Irving situation has, caused ripples through the league, and I want to get into it. I'm going to skip the injuries, because who cares about them? Let's talk about Bucky Irving, the standout football asset that he's showing all signs. He's now become almost a potential league winner, even after a slow start. He's taken over that backfield, even outpacing Rachaad White in both rushing and receiving. His rise has driven by a combination of his talent that I thought was, there initially, but the combine really scared me off. And I thought his opportunity wasn't going to be there, because Rachaad White was the guy last year, finishing as a top 10 running back. Now looking ahead, his value continues to climb, Bucky Irving's. And despite White still being there, getting work, this has been a situation where it's evolving now. Given his impressive college metrics, his combined with his recent NFL performance, how much higher do you think his dynasty value is now, Biggs, in dynasty? Is he a top 10 running back in your eyes?
No, but his value has risen 7.
Yeah. So
and at 7, what? I don't know. No. I mean, his potential year over year from now on, I could see him having some top 10 finishes, something that, the analytics going into the season did not have on the radar. But, opportunity is king. And as long as he's a little guy, he's a little fella. If he can stay kind of in a similar mode to Devon Achane, he's kind of between Deuce Vaughn and Devon Achane in terms of his bigness. And his combine was terrible, but that doesn't matter for a whole lot. If you can eke out the opportunity, and due to Rachaad White injury, he did. And the thing about the Rachaad White thing is that Rachaad White has had some huge games, even with Bucky Irving there. And Bucky Irving has had some huge games with Rachaad White there. So I think there needs to be more clarity from the coaching staff. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to pick one over the other. I still love Rachaad White. But yeah, his value has definitely increased, and he is in line for some possible top 10 finishes for the next few years.
I got I saw a tweet today. I'm not sure who it was from, but it was comparing Bucky Irving to Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was saying that Bucky Irving is what we wanted Jahmyr Gibbs to be. So
that's crazy.
What?
Jahmyr Gibbs is what we wanted Jahmyr Gibbs to be.
Yeah, he's like the RB3 on the season. Like
Bucky Irving is not there yet.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like Andy from The Office, where he's like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he's dressed like George Michael. Like, hell no. What are we talking about?
So hold on. We wanted the guy who was a top 12 pick in one of the best offenses in the NFL to become a 5th round pick, less athletic, and just in a timeshare with a guy who the staff was committed to. I don't. What angle are we going with here? That's the part that confuses me the most. Like, what is he talking about?
I think Tank Bigsby is what we wanted Deuce Vaughn to be. I think that's
yes. Now that I can roll with. I don't understand what the expectation is, because Jahmyr Gibbs is 4th in the fourth.
Okay. So hold on. This is from Scott Barrett. Okay. This isn't just a person here. Okay. So Bucky Irving is what we wanted Jahmyr Gibbs.
Last I checked, Scott Barrett was still a person.
He's who we want him to be.
Scott
is what we wanted.
Scott Barrett is who we wanted.
But
Alan Hepworth to be.
Confirmed. Scott Barrett is a person, and also ball knower. So
yes.
This tweet was just a bunch of word salad to say, hey, I really like Bucky Irving.
No. I think we're witnessing what would happen if the Lions gave Jahmyr Gibbs a 60% backfield share rather than a splitting it perfectly evenly. The Buccaneers backfield leads the league in receptions, 82, and receiving yards, 692, and ranks as the third most valuable backfield in expected fantasy points per game, only narrowing behind the Lions and Dolphins. So that is putting this more into context here, guys, as far as the split goes and what we want Jahmyr Gibbs to be playing, because Bucky Irving is the situation we would prefer Jahmyr Gibbs to be in.
Well, let's look at this for a second. Rachaad White is sitting just close to 100 points more this season than Bucky Irving. He has over 100 more rushes, and I don't know why that's not showing the targets. 883 rushing yards for White to 517 for Bucky. Like, Rachaad White is getting the lion's share of the carries. There isn't a scenario in which Bucky Irving is the RB1 on this team. It might have happened in the last couple of weeks, but not over the course of an 18-game season. So I don't see a world in which this is comparable to Montgomery.
I guess maybe over the last couple of weeks would be maybe if allow me to put words in Mr. Barrett's mouth. So since the bye, since week 11, they came back in week 12. Bucky, 37 carries, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 targets, 9 catches, 97 yards. 9 catches for 97 yards. So that's 337 total yards and 2 scores since they returned from the bye, with 23 touches a game. So sure, yeah, you could say that that's what you want from Jahmyr Gibbs, but that's also a formula for him to have like a 6-year NFL career from averaging 400 touches a season. Like,
well, then it's the same thing because Bucky Irving's smaller than Jahmyr Gibbs. So like that's the longevity here. So when we're thinking in a dynasty perspective now, like how can we rank Bucky Irving now? This is where it gets really interesting.
Well, I posit? Take a look at the opportunity share for Bucky Irving, 47.9%. Right, he's not getting that 60% opportunity share like we think. Although recently he's been getting a lot more work. But I posit the question, between the numbers that Biggs laid out for Rachaad White and, of course, Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, though, in the last 3 weeks, granted, it's a recency bias. You can play the whole nomenclature of it's a weekly game. We're talking about against San Fran, Bucky Irving, RB7. Against the Giants, RB3. Carolina, the RB1. Right. I feel like we're in this frozen moment of time where it's moving forward and the bus is about to leave for Bucky Irving. And I think we're trending in that direction where he's going to leave Rachaad White in the dust.
Well, the other thing is, even against the Giants 2 weeks ago, they were evenly split in the number of carries. They each had 12 carries. Bucky Irving out-carried him in this last game. That's I can't say that's the only time this season, but
Bucky's coming off of that toe injury too, as well. So he
was dealing with a hip.
Yeah,
right. The other thing to consider is over the course of careers, you look at size profiles of running backs. Bucky Irving is 5'10", 195 pounds, and no running back of that size has sustained more than one top 24 finish in their career. It just doesn't happen. And Rachaad White is bigger. He's 6 foot, 210 pounds. So over yes, Bucky Irving has 3 years on him in terms of youth, which, I mean, that means I'll take a couple more Rachaad White years, who's going to have that, the more of the bruiser kind of profile. Guys just don't lead backfields when they're under 200 pounds. And I don't think it's going to happen for Bucky Irving either.
Man, I know Devon Achane slander when I hear it. He's great.
All right, KK, because like Jeremiah, let's get you involved with this. So Bucky Irving's recent surge in touches, production. Do you see him as a long-term RB1 for Tampa, or is Rachaad White's role likely to reassert himself next season?
Hey, I see Bucky Irving. This is a moment of time, picture in time, clear-cut long-term RB1 for Tampa Bay going forward. When you ask people, though, long-term, right, they tend to think we're in a dynasty, we'll have this forever, 3 to 5 years, right? For me, long-term with running back landscape, how confident am I that the running back is not going to either get hurt or have his job undercut from him in the next year? Be it you've got competition from within. So in this case, alluded to Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and then there's competition that is drafted or acquired in free agency. Just ask Tajay Spears, right? Of course, the higher the draft pick, the higher the dollar amount, the greater fear we have heading into next year. We'd have trepidation for Bucky Irving. I'm confident that the starting job is going to be Bucky Irving's in 2025, or he's going to be the running back that you want. I'm confident in Irving's success, that it'll continue. So I'm banking on health, continue good performance, trending in the right direction. I think trending is the right word for moment in time. My prognosis lands on Irving being the guy for at least the next 2 years. That to me is the long-term path from where I'm sitting. As far as Rachaad White, I've always said he runs like he has cement in his cleats. He's benefited from volume and opportunity. And speaking of volume and opportunity, Bucky Irving, Mike, you had talked about combine results. Bucky Irving reminds me of Kyron Williams. Both got blasted for the poor combine, right? But they both thrived up the depth chart for their respective teams, and their coaches love each of them respectively. The funny thing is, though, Bucky Irving is actually efficient versus Kyron Williams, who is more of a creation of the Sean McVay offense. Here's some Bucky Irving efficiency stats. Then I'll hang up and listen and see what you got. 9 yards created, 845. Third in yards created per touch, 5.03. Plus 20 in expected points added, EPA. So he's doing something for the environment, too. 11th in breakaway runs is Bucky Irving. 9th in evaded tackles. That helps when you don't have cement cleats like Rachaad White. Irving has a 94% catch rate, which is first. Okay, 35 catches this year for 285 yards. You love to see it. What do you got to say to that?
I've seen Rachaad White have explosivity this year, and a lot of it over the last couple of years was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers needing to rebuild their offensive line, and both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving have been beneficiaries of that offensive line rebuild. So we have seen an uptick in efficiency from Rachaad White. He does profile as a do-it-all back. Now, Bucky Irving is showing some between the tackles work that we didn't really see coming, but Rachaad White showed that he was able to handle pass catching ability. If things kind of play out the way I see them, I totally see a scenario where Tampa Bay doesn't offer Rachaad White a 5th-year contract. He goes away in free agency and becomes an RB1 for another team, and Bucky Irving breaks down due to injury because he's only 195 pounds. Over the course of fantasy football history, those are the two most likely scenarios.
Here's a question for you then, Biggs and Chev. Do you buy low on Rachaad White where, look, everywhere you go, it's Bucky Irving, it's front running for him being a league winner, right? Is this a time now to buy on the slide for Rachaad White?
It would completely depend on what the price was. I could pay a late second for him right now. That would be the absolute ceiling of what I could do. If I could get him for a third, which I don't think you can, I 100% would do that. But anything beyond like the 210 and a 12 team, like a 2-9 to 212 in a 12-team league, I wouldn't feel comfortable just because of what is happening. Bucky Irving's efficiency. So like weeks 10 against San Francisco, you've got week 12 against the Giants, and then last week against the Carolina Panthers. He's only playing 52% of the snaps. He played 51% of the rushing snaps. He ran a route on 40% of their dropbacks in that 3-game span, and he's got a target percentage of around 13% in those weeks. So he's extraordinarily efficient. Like they're not going to do what they did with him last week because Baker couldn't figure it out. Like they just were like, hey, we've got a guy, and their run defense is awful. So let's just run it out. I mean, you saw they handed the ball. Like, if they gave the ball to Rachaad White last week, the exact same thing probably would have happened, just at like a 5-yard clip as opposed to like the 15 to 20-yard runs that Bucky was breaking off. And I mean, you saw Rachaad White break the game winner in overtime. So long story short, long story less long, Rachaad White would be a buy if I can get him for a late second. I think that he's going to be there next year. He's obviously going to be there next year because that's the 4th year on his contract. But then you move into a scenario with Bucky where he has to survive the 2026 NFL draft. And that would be my sell window, because if he stays healthy and Rachaad White stays healthy and they're continuing to split the work and Bucky's extraordinarily efficient like this, you're looking at probably a top 12 season for Bucky easily. And then that would enter into a massive sell window once Rachaad leaves, because you're looking at them adding another, potentially adding competition via the draft.
I just don't think that at his size, any offensive coordinator in the NFL is going to be like, let's give this guy 25 carries a game. Rachaad White does have right. Rachaad White does have the size to do that. As far as Rachaad White's window, I don't feel like right now is the time to buy low. I think we need to wait over the course of the rest of the season and into the offseason to watch Bucky's value rise and wait for the scuttlebutt to become Rachaad White is washed. I bought him when he was washed a couple years ago before his excellent 2023 season when everybody was out on him. So I'm giving it another 6 to 8 months before I start looking to buy him again. But at that time, I absolutely would be all in on buying low on Rachaad White.
Hey, I want to give a hat tip to Chev because he nailed the market. Looking at Keep Trade Cut right now, late 25 second and Rachaad White, both at equal points there. And then what Biggs is saying, essentially, as it's even there, you're thinking you can have an even more of a dip.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Bucky is going to experience what Tajay went through when Derrick Henry left in free agency times 10. Like, if y'all remember, at one point before Tony Pollard signed with the Titans, you were giving up late first for Tajay Spears in the offseason. Yep. Like, he was the darling. He was an efficiency metric. Boom. Like, people were giving up late first for Tajay Spears because it was like, hey, this guy in a bell cow role is going to be incredible. So you're probably going to get that times 10 with Bucky Irving, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, what is the situation here where it could be like, Sonic and Knuckles, these guys just coexist and be very good together as coexisting partners. And that's kind of what I was alluding to by talking about this. Like, both these guys could be very valuable in their own roles within this offense, within Baker Mayfield, with these aging wide receivers. There's a lot of, uncertainty in the Buccaneers offense. And this could be them paving their way for them having their own little, Sonic and Knuckles situation here. And I'm all for both of them having a role there.
The caveat is the team has to be really good for the team to invest in both of them like that, in my opinion. The Lions know that they're a Super Bowl contender with those two guys. If the Bucs are just competing for their division, I can't see them investing somewhat heavily into their backfield, knowing that they need to go do X, Y, and Z in free agency to make them a Super Bowl contender.
I'm not sure they have to invest a lot into Rachaad White, keeping him, especially if Bucky Irving is outshadowing him. He's like a dynasty, like us, talking about him. Let's wait till his value is at its lowest, and then let's re-sign him. Like, I could see that happening on the cheap for them.
Well, I mean, somebody's gonna want Rachaad White in free agency, dude. Somewhat, like the Raiders are gonna go give him a bag to be their bell cow.
The other thing is the different profiles of them. You have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who absolutely have two different profiles.
Yes.
The problem with Rachaad White is that he also can be the pass catching back. He can be a 3-down back. If he has put him put him behind the Detroit offensive line. There's not a need for 2 running backs when you have one guy who can be the goal line guy like David Montgomery, and a guy who can swing out wide and catch dump offs and swing passes like Jahmyr Gibbs. Rachaad White is that guy. That hasn't changed. Rachaad White has seen an uptick in efficiency because of that offensive line, which was absolute garbage in 2022. And everybody was like, look how bad Rachaad White is. Well, then what did he do in 2023? He showed that he can give you 60, 70 catches a season. He can be the 3-down guy on some team.
With 30 opportunities a game, where he's going to get that? Who's going to give him 30 opportunities a game? Nobody with his efficiency. Yeah. The Cowboys don't even understand how anything works. I mean,
which is why after
they couldn't draft a running back in the draft when there was so many gems right in front of them. They're not going to see Rachaad White. You see, they're not going to see him coming.
He's not going to get 30 touches a game, but he could find himself very easily in a situation like Josh Jacobs was with the Raiders, or even Josh Jacobs right now with the Packers. Josh Jacobs showed himself to be a pass catcher with Green Bay, right? All you need is that upside of 4 to 6 catches per game to put yourself in that conversation. And Rachaad White could very easily find himself in a position with another team that is looking for that. What if he goes to the Chargers next year? What if he finds his way, Derrick Henry retires and he comes into Baltimore behind that? He's got the size profile and the pass catching ability to be that kind of running back. Bucky Irving doesn't have the size to do that. He's surprising us with his between the tackles ability. We knew that he was a pass catcher. He's going to be a 3rd-down guy, but he can't be a 3-down guy. Rachaad White can still be a 3-down guy. Whether that's their current usage or not, Rachaad White can be a 3-down guy. He proved that last year.
But there's no offense is going to give a guy like that unless you're the Saquon Barkley or the Bijan Robinson. No NFL team is working. We talked about this earlier in the show. We're all moving towards these 2-back systems where that is the next generation NFL. Unless you're an elite talent, Rachaad White is not an elite talent. He's always going to be now a secondary guy no matter where he goes. Because he's not efficient and with his duties. Like, he's not efficient.
Hey, Rachaad White's averaging a career high 4.07 yards per carry this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Respect it.
On top of the fact that last year he finished within the top 10 as a do-it-all 3-down back. Like, he has shown that he can do that before.
With this draft class, I'm just saying, as a free agent, with this draft class, I'm like, he's going to find himself somewhere, but it's going to be in a competition, and there's going to be somebody emerging past him.
And yes, you did get the season you wanted out of Rachaad White, where he had unadulterated opportunity, but they still felt a need to bring in Bucky Irving. They still felt a need to not have him as the guy. I'm curious. I know you named a couple different teams, be it the Cowboys, be it the Ravens if Derrick Henry were out, the Raiders. I mean, hey, if the Raiders will pull up Zamir White, of course they'll take in Rachaad White. I like that idea of him going somewhere. I like the idea of, as Chev pointed out, it's a floor price right now of a late second. And then to Big's point, you're going to dip down and have another even sunken opportunity. So it's very nifty. It seems like Biggs and Chev, you're bullish on Rachaad White, but you're patient because you can see, hey, to the Dynasty Pulse, right, that you are tapped into the fact that this market is going to dive even more and there's going to be a buying opportunity. Granted, myself, maybe even Mike, may not be in on Rachaad White, but we can see where that market is going, and I can appreciate the sharpness of that price because right now you're not going to pay a high dollar price.
Right.
You're just going to let the market come to you. I think that's a very savvy, sharp thing to do process-wise because whether or not fundamentally Biggs and Chev are correct on their interpretation of Rachaad White, what is the cost offset? And let's say you take around 10 players that Chev and Biggs, your eval, you get 6 or 7 of them right, you get 3 or 4 of them wrong, and we keep pushing, right? If you keep adhering to those processes and have those prices where you read the market that way, if you fail on Rachaad White, the other 5 or 6 successes that you have following this process will profit for you. So I like that.
Right.
I like the process.
And there's a couple things that I want to point out about Rachaad White. Number one being the fact that he's a third-year running back. He still has a couple of years on the tires left. This is his highest yards per carry efficiency. He has had Bucky Irving cut into his workload a little bit, but he didn't have any competition for that last year. And surprisingly, he has more receiving touchdowns this year than he did last year, even when he had 70 targets, 64 catches in the receiving game, and fewer touchdowns in the receiving game than he does now, and he finishes RB4. I don't understand how you can look at a guy with a top 5 finish, with a 64 catch season, and fade him, except if you're using, like Jeremiah brought up, recency bias.
I mean, here's the thing. He's at 12.3 expected fantasy points per game since the Bucky takeover happened. If you want to say it was week 10 against San Francisco, he's at 12.3 expected fantasy points per game, actual 13.2 fantasy points per game. He's still around 50% of the snaps. So if it's 50-50, he's at 40% of the routes. They're dead even in terms of routes run. And he's at a 10% target share, whereas Bucky's at 13. So the efficiency of Bucky Irving and like this crazy window, like remember, Cedric Tillman was the wide receiver 1 over the course of like the first 3 weeks that Jameis took over. The wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy. Now that seems like so long ago. Jerry Jeudy and Jordan Addison are going in trade straight up for each other. So like the temperature, you got to be a thermostat, not a thermometer in these situations, in my opinion.
Woo!
Oh man, that's like Jalen Hurts over here, right?
Because, well, I mean, I'm saying that because like if you overreact to this and go and give up, like you're a middling team and you give up a mid first for Bucky Irving, and let's say they trade Rachaad White and then they spend a 2nd round pick on like Amarion Hampton, like are you still gonna feel great about Bucky Irving in going into next year? Like you're like, hey, what he did in 2024 was cool, but like Amarion Hampton is incredible. Right.
Bucky Irving is weather. Rachaad White is climate.
But in all seriousness, though, like we just, yep. there's a buying opportunity that's going to come up for Rachaad White. We do this every year. It just so happens that we're talking like we could have a list of 10 guys who would probably like the market's cool on them and it's gonna get cooler. So excellent point from Biggs to say, hey, maybe not right now. We can get them lower. It's like you go into a car dealership and you're like, hey, I'm gonna slide this paper over to you. That's my best offer. And you're like, okay, I'll walk out. And they're like, wait. I can go a little bit lower, man. Okay, all right.
In my home league, I drafted Dameon Pierce and I traded him at the end of 2022 for Rachaad White, and then at the beginning of 2024, I traded Rachaad White away. So I got that 1 year of Rachaad White as RB4.
Beautiful,
and
beautiful.
Not that it helped me in that league, but still, it was.
I mean, that's a great process. I mean, his value may never be higher than it was going into 2024.
Right.
And you got to think too, the one point we go through this every year, right? Is the unknown. What's about to happen with Rachaad White is the unknown. With Bucky Irving, he's locked into his rookie contract, whereas Rachaad White could end up, being on LinkedIn, searching for work. Where that ends up being, we can't be sure. So there is, and again, this is good to your process because if there is a dip, okay, I'll posit to you this, Biggs. You're looking for a dip even further. What would be a team where you'd be like, oh shit, this is getaway, runaway, right away, self-defense for Rachaad White next year or any other time for a landing spot?
I mean, there's not if he gets traded in the offseason, I would love to see him go to Vegas. he would absolutely take over for Zamir White. I don't think Alexander Madison would put up much of a fight against that. And you want to talk about inefficiency. I mentioned the Chargers earlier. I think he would look great in Broncos orange. I think he could do a lot in Tennessee, just given like Tony Pollard being a little bit older and Tyjae Spears not having the physical profile that we want. Houston would be good once Joe Mixon falls off. Like again, there are some teams that are out there. New York Giants would be nice. Buffalo. There are some teams. You look at James Cook, right? James Cook is a guy that we all had pegged as an undersized, won't be a workhorse, won't be the primary running back in a backfield. The Buffalo Bills have used him that way, and so far he hasn't broken down. He is defying the odds. The only player of their size who had ever sustained anything was Austin Eckler, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is being used the way that he should. And those Thunder and Lightning offenses, there are a lot of those, and everybody wants to talk about the fact that there are, this and that offense, and everybody's going to a two-back system. That's not necessarily the case. There are primary backs and spell backs in almost every case. There aren't a lot of backfields where there's legitimately a Thunder and Lightning option. Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara might be like that, but Kamara can handle the workload on his own when Jamal Williams is hurt. And I think that's more along the lines of what Rachaad White can do. He's not nearly as athletic as Alvin Kamara, but if you have Rachaad White you're giving somebody else the short down and goal line rushes, but then using him in a 3-down role with pass catching ability, kind of like what the Raiders did with Josh Jacobs, I think he can sustain top 10, top 12, top 15 success for at least another couple of years.
Yeah, I'm not even close to that. I don't think that at all.
Well, good. I will take them off your hands. Just
you can take
send
them
me an
off
offer.
I don't know. Like, are the Raiders going to be anywhere close to scoring as many points as the Bucks have? Like, I don't see it. I don't see the opportunity
against the Bucks this week. Yeah.
Well, I don't see an opportunity where Rachaad White has any sort of opportunity that he had last year, and that's where your value is at. Like, there's no way he goes to any team where any one of those teams you just mentioned. Doesn't happen.
I would bet an absurd amount of money if you put him on the Chargers, he would do at least what J.K. Dobbins did this year.
They're not going to pay to get him there. Like
you're not going to have to pay a lot. They pay J.K. Dobbins $50,000 guaranteed.
Yeah. They're not going there. He's not going to the Chargers. The only opportunity where I see him being viable, and
you can't say, well, where's he gonna go? Here, he's not going there. Like,
so the Chargers,
the one team in all of the NFL. So
the Chargers,
I'm gonna hedge my bet on every other team.
We mentioned a lot of other teams, though.
The Chargers, that is a lateral move.
Just hear me out. Off the top of my head, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Cowboys,
the Broncos
all be in the market.
You want any sort of opportunity in that backfield now?
100%.
Put him in Denver. He's better than Javonte. He's better than Blake Corum. He's better than Jaleel McLaughlin.
You tell Sean Payton that. You tell Sean Payton
that. Top 15 option. If they consolidated all the touches to an elite pass,
roll the dice on that.
Mike, you have to remember that Biggs and Chev are looking this purely through the lens of Rachaad White is a baller. So all these places that they're naming, they're bullish, they're optimistic. There's two sides to the market.
I'm saying, hey, here's a good offense. Here's a guy who's shown you that he's a one of the best, if not the best, pass catching back in the NFL behind Alvin Kamara.
He needed 30 opportunities a game to do what he did last year.
Yes.
He's not going to get that.
He had 272 carries. He had 330 opportunities. That's 18 opportunities a game. It's it's not 30 opportunities a game. So what I'm saying is, he had 64 catches, 272 carries. That's 336 opportunities, and it turned into over 1,200 yards. Or no, it was 1,500 yards from scrimmage. So what are we? Are you saying that he can't produce that type of volume in a better offense with a better offensive line? these are the things that if you're going to transport him, if we're playing the ifs and buts game,
Yep.
If he goes to a good offense that utilizes the running back, his value could absolutely spike. That's what I'm saying.
He would take over in Dallas. He would take over for the Giants. I mean, there's a bunch of places where he could play his profile out.
Like I'm saying,
there's a few offenses,
and there's a chance that they're like, hey, we're gonna do something different, and he doesn't really fit in our profile anymore. Give us like a fourth or a fifth round pick for him, and you can have him.
I'll trade you Tucker Kraft straight up for Rachaad White right now, Mike.
I'll do it in a heartbeat. Fucking heartbeat.
Hey, here's one.
Yeah.
Biggs, in your if scenario, because we're talking about a lot of ifs, we should just start writing fiction because you guys are writing some good stuff.
I'm being asked hypotheticals and answering with hypotheticals.
Look, if we see you on the New York Times bestseller, we'll know, okay?
Yeah.
Biggs, if you go down, let's say you buy that dip that low, Rachaad White splashes, let's say it's Chev's scenario, goes to the Chargers. At what point would you want to exit Rachaad White for a profit?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like, hey, this was your fourth. Like, let's say they trade for him for some reason, and we got him in his fourth year, like final year of his contract with the Chargers. He puts up like RB14. I am selling. I will sell. I'm out. Like
me off the bone, you would do one season with a team like San Diego, or LA, the most bullish scenario. Is that correct? Biggs, at what point would you sell him preseason, midseason, or would you ride out a season? What do you hope?
I would ride out a season with him just because of the potential that I think that he has. I do like Chev's floor of RB14. That was pretty nice. Let's see.
I mean, if we're consolidating opportunities, he's better than J.K. Dobbins. He's not going to be 4.5, 5 yards a carry, whatever J.K. Dobbins was pre-injury. But what he would offer you is of safety, like an excellent safety valve in the passing game. Do you want to give Will Dissly 8 targets, or do you want to give 5 targets to Rachaad White? What do you think the more positive EPA play is going to be?
So now they're asking to take
the most optimal. The most optimal situation is RB14 that they're talking about.
That's the
floor. The floor. Yeah, the most optimal.
That's not the
floor.
ceiling.
Yeah, it's an optimal floor. All right. Okay. What was his? Like he finished as the RB4.
RB4 last year. He's sitting at RB24 right now. If he's going to finish around there, unless Bucky if Bucky continues to like eat into his.
First of all, let's just make sure Bucky's practicing today. If Bucky didn't practice today, Rachaad White might become my start of the week.
Fuck, we've talked too much about this.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to derail it.
I don't know. A Vegas team that absolutely shut the Chiefs down last week. I don't know if you want that. If you want that smoke,
I don't care. My Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls.
That wasn't a dig at you. That had nothing to do with you.
Hey, you've been digging me all week on that game that they lost.
No, I'm extolling the virtues of the Raiders.
Sir, this is an Arby's. Leave us alone about your back-to-back Super Bowls.
I don't care what show I'm on or who's on there.
Mike, Rachaad White, would he be better than RB14 on the Chiefs? What do you say?
No.
Hey, if you can't get Mike on that, it's not going to happen, man.
He doesn't mean that. He's just saying it to keep his argument.
No. I mean, sorry. Like I like Rachaad White. I liked Rachaad White. Biggs knows I have a lot of Rachaad White. We drafted him in a lot of places.
You kept trying to not draft him, and I kept saying, "Let's draft him."
All right. Well, so this is a bit concerning, maybe for me at least. All right. So Mike and Bucky both didn't practice today. I think Mike's going to play, but this Bucky thing is
that'll be a
slightly
veteran
concerning.
move. That's a veteran day
Yeah,
off.
I don't care about Mike Evans not practicing. Well, he's gonna be big, and he's gonna go out there and he's gonna catch 9 balls for 95 yards or whatever he needs to get to his 11th straight 1,000-yard season. Not worried about Mike. I'm worried about Bucky Irving because you saw him walking out of that game looking like, he had just been hit by 1,000 sledgehammers because he is 195 pounds. So, he didn't practice today. I don't care about not practicing on Wednesday. Not practicing on Thursday when you're a rookie gives me cause for pause.
This isn't a dig at the Chiefs at all. Whoever the Raiders played last week, the Raiders allowed 63 rushing yards. So I don't know if anybody's going to be a smash against them at any point.
Yeah, no, the Raiders have a really good run defense, and they're in games where, oftentimes you don't need to have to stop the run against them. So, I like this call. Bucky Irving not practicing, I'm not too worried about it. I think he plays.
I don't care about not practicing Wednesday. Not practicing on Thursday is the one that kind of
and that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. We're 50 minutes in and we haven't done anything other than talk about fucking Rachaad White and Bucky Irving.
According to the map, we've only gone 4 inches.
I mean, we still have the whole first half of the Thursday night football game before we have to get over to PAT. So we got time.
Okay, let's get
welcome to the Bucky Irving Pulse.
All right, yeah. You know what? I never thought it would get to this. Schultzy is missing out on a good one here, but let's move on. Let's talk about. Do we want to get into Drake Maye versus Jaden Daniels? Do we want to talk about that, or do we want to get in our
I want you to talk about it. I want to hear what your take is.
All right, let's go. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about Bucky Irving. No, wait. Are we talking about Bucky Irving? No. Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye. This is heating up. It was off season last year.
Wait. Before we get into this, Mike, plug your ears.
Okay.
Plug your ears so you can't hear me, because I don't want what I say. You're wearing headphones. I don't want what I'm about to say. Now. Yes, you can. Before the season, I said Jaden Daniels was Lamar and Drake Maye was Josh Allen. Let's see what Mike has to say.
All right. I unmuted myself. I did not hear a single word you just said.
Yeah.
I swear to God. I swear.
Okay.
I didn't. I'm going to have to roll back to 52 minutes in, and we'll go.
There's your Tucker Craft touchdown.
Yep.
All right. Well, Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels, there's a revelation here, and the Commanders are thriving as, with him as a passer and a rusher. Now, week 13, Daniels throw for 2,800 yards, 15 touchdowns. Now, Drake Maye, on the other hand, he's shown his potential his rookie season, although his consistency has been up and down. He threw for 238 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception last week. Now, the Patriots and the Commanders are in different stages. The Commanders are making a charge here. Jaden Daniels had, his coming out game, I swear, last week. It looked like, after some growing pains, he came into his comfort level. Now, Drake Maye, on the other hand, he's got nobody around him, no weapons. Chev, last week, 2 weeks ago, you were talking about him as a guy that you were really hoping to see his stock up happen with a wide receiver come in. And I see this offseason that happening. I'm not sure which one comes in, but they have some draft capital. They have some money to spend as well. So I could see a top name coming in there. And same with the Commanders on the other end of the ball. So where do you guys see this? Drake Maye has shown his rushing upside. Same with Jaden Daniels. Drake Maye has had a poor offensive line and not much protection. Now, Biggs, where do you see this going? Me, I've got Jaden Daniels ahead of Drake Maye at this stage of the game. What about you, buddy?
Well, just from all the shows that we do, that my top 2 quarterbacks in this 2025 class were Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye. I was not as high on Bo Nix as I maybe should have been. I was also lower on Caleb Williams than everybody else was, and Caleb's been – it took him a while, but he seems to be doing all right. But I said from the get-go last year when we started doing shows about the 2024 draft class that Jane Daniels and Drake Maye were the two best quarterbacks in the draft, and JJ McCarthy, but the jury's still out on him. So yeah, this is not surprising to me at all. I've had both of them in start and sit shows and waiver wire shows all season long, and everything is playing out the way that I expected it to. But I wish that you had gone to Chev and Jeremiah before me on this one, because I've already said lots on both.
Okay, well, I know that Chev was high on Drake Maye a couple of weeks ago.
But you didn't ask me how high I am on Jaden Daniels, bro.
Exactly. So what is your take on the situation? They're both very, very good prospects, great first year players, and both probably top 12 dynasty assets right now. So what do you think?
Unquestionably top 12 dynasty assets. But the thing is, Drake Maye is looking to get what Jaden Daniels already has. He has a solid offensive line. He has his alpha number one wide receiver. Ben Sinnott is going to eventually supplant the fantasy gatekeeper Zach Ertz and offer another explosive weapon in the passing game. There's zero reason right now for me to take Drake Maye over Jaden Daniels. I can see a path where next year this could be a much closer chasm, but right now it's Jaden Daniels by a lot, because he offers you a more healthy ecosystem. He's not going to get absolutely mauled and have to be running for his life constantly because the offensive line is so putrid. He's got the alpha wide receiver. We know Terry McLaurin is awesome, and it's great to see like that finally coming to fruition. And we hope that we can get a T. Higgins to New England. We hope that we can get an alpha wide receiver there. But if that doesn't happen, then he's throwing to B players again, and B is being generous, if we're being honest. So, yeah, I have to take Jaden Daniels. There's zero reason to take Drake Maye here, unless you're just like, hey, Drake Maye is absolutely a clone of Josh Allen, and next year is when we get the breakout. Even though Josh Allen didn't become Omega-level nuclear threat fantasy-wise Josh Allen until he got an alpha wide receiver. We have to keep that in mind as well. So, yeah, give me Jaden Daniels over Drake Maye with the current, as their ecosystems are currently constructed from a fantasy perspective.
Higgins will be a Raider.
So if Higgins is a Raider, then yeah, even more. Give me Jaden Daniels over Drake Maye.
It'll be Higgins and Rashad White. So fix that for you.
No,
then Cam Ward is QB1. Duh. We know that.
All right, Jeremiah, where do you weigh in here?
Hey, man, give me Jaden Daniels over Drake Maye. But I do have excitement in the fact that you can leverage Daniels for Maye Plus based on market sentiment, correct? On Player Profiler, you guys might have heard of that website. Their dynasty ranking. Daniels is QB2. Drake Maye is ranked 7th. So a little bit more ahead on consensus or what consensus is. And then keep trade cut, which is reactionary, but it's just something to conversate. Daniels is QB3, Drake Maye, QB12, a little bit of a wider chasm, however you say it. Somebody mentioned that word before, just dropping heat on the vocab. Head over to Dynasty Daddy. I go on Dynasty Daddy. There's a fancy market tool, and from Dynasty Process, it gives the advantage to Jaden Daniels by about 3,000 points. For Superflex, trades, fantasy market, it pushes out. Here's a trade. And what side would you gentlemen want? All right. And I use that term loosely, gentlemen. Jaden Daniels for Drake Maye and Rashee Rice. Which side do you like? Daniels for Maye and Rashee Rice.
I take Maye and Rashee Rice.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Let me posit another one. Oh, sorry. Biggs, what about you?
Oh, I nodded my head. Yeah.
Okay. Daniels for Maye and Josh Jacobs. Which side?
Maye and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Now let's switch it. Josh Jacobs and Daniels for Drake Maye.
Whichever side has the plus on it is the side that I'm likely going to take.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at is, I think what happens is in this market with Daniels, people who have Daniels we know what we've got, right? You sell a lemon of a car. I know what I'm selling. I know what I've got, and I'm going to sell it for this price. In this case, we have studs, right? The people who have Daniels and the people who have Drake Maye are anchored to where they're at, to where I feel like a lot of people who have Drake Maye are adamant and firm to the fact that they think he's just as good as Jaden Daniels. So I almost think that whatever gets you that plus side is going to be an adequate trade. What do you think of that? Do you think, even though there's the differential, and it seems like the four of us have this consensus, but does it not feel like the Drake Maye herd, which is they're excellent. I'm pro Drake Maye, but it feels like if you were to one-on-one, the truther who discovered or got the entry price in a rookie draft for Drake Maye, it's going to have to be very gridlocked, even. And to swing a trade, it's going to have to be something to those players that I had mentioned that tips it over. What do you make of that?
I think so as well. Like, I mean, they're splitting hairs, and if you get the extra +1, yeah, they're so close right now in rankings. They're both top 12 assets. If you get a +1 and get it, I think there's so much unknown still ahead of these rookies that you're taking a shot in the dark regardless, if you will. And I'm going to take the plus.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, they both have extreme upside. Biggs was probably the first one in the industry to peg it as the Drake Maye and Josh Allen comp, and yeah, man, a lot of people are taking on to that now. So good on you, Biggs, for that one.
I likely wasn't the first.
Yeah, you were.
No, because it was
ever
right. Right before the season. But I mean, Drake Maye is one of those guys that I was on as a freshman and just like biding my time, waiting for him to come out. Kind of like Rocco Becht, just Brock Bowers, similar situation. Just like seeing something special in their freshman year and just going, oh, just wait till they're a 3-year declare and they're
that
my
was me with
priority.
Saquon Barkley.
I just saw Josh Jacobs score another fucking touchdown.
I know.
Yes.
No, that's great for everything except my rankings.
Yeah, I've got a parlay that's way alive right now because I had Josh Jacobs first touchdown score and Josh Jacobs to score 2 touchdowns.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty amped up about that.
All right, we're an hour in, and let's get into. You want to do stock up, stock down, or starts and sits?
Starts and sits.
Let's do starts and sits for the week, and then
we talked a lot of stocks already.
Yeah. All right. So Jeremiah being our guest here tonight, and hopefully you'll come on more times. You're welcome anytime back. Let's get your starts and sits for the week.
All right. So my starts and sits for the week, it's going to be Will Levis versus the Jaguars. Yes. And when I typed it in on the show sheet, I was just like, suck it, Chev. I'm going to
Tennessee
take him before you take him.
I know my co-host on the show, he did it to me too. So I was already emotionally damaged from that. So it's fine.
Hey, man, a Will Levis fan getting intercepted, I guess it happens, right? So Will Levis is 7th in interceptable passes, speaking of, 4th in danger plays. So we know he's been wild, right? But in the last month, finishes of QB 9, 21, 13, 20. So Levis is a lot like Michael Scott's vasectomy, where there's been a snip, snap nature of him playing better, like snip, snap, like he's getting better, then he goes back. Snip, snap. The Jaguars are a golden matchup. They're ranked 30th defensively. They've given up 337 points this year in 12 games, which averages 28 points a game. That's 4 touchdowns, Chev, that are out there for Nick Westbrook-Akine,
Tony Pollard,
and Calvin Ridley on a pass because it's the Will Levis start. Okay. In the last month, Levis has 2 games of 78 and 75% completion percentage. Who does he think he is? Jaden Daniels? He is starting to get hot. I'm starting Levis in Superflex leagues. I like him in DFS as a contrarian play. He's my start of the week. Fantasy Pros expert consensus ranks has him as QB 16. So I'm trying to pluck a start that, okay, not everybody's just going to jump to, right? They have Levis as a 5-star matchup, but they have him ranked 16th. So it stands out to me as a not so obvious pick. So anybody can just say, hey, go start Josh Allen, go start Rachaad White. But can they decipher whether or not that you should start Will Levis? So this is a week for me to roll out Levis. And am I doing my sit right now, or are you gentlemen doing your?
We're gonna move on. But I have a question: is there any way for both of these teams to lose?
I think if they tie, right, that would be the equivalent, right about, right?
No, because I think that they get a half a game up in the draft standings. So in this case, because the Titans are, I think, a game back of Jaguars in the race to number one, I'm saying go Titans.
There you go. Yeah. Well, because we have Chev here, and we want to throw some shade at Schultzy, who's on vacation, if you will, or on a holiday, or whatever you call it.
Murder trip.
Exactly. He's burying somebody somewhere.
Well, it'll make a good podcast someday.
All right. Who's next? Chev, let's go.
Oh, you want me to go? That's fine.
Yep.
Easy. Russell Wilson. We got robbed of a generational let Russ cook game because of the snow a few weeks ago in Cleveland. And I'm going to be honest with you. Cleveland doesn't really look like they're interested in playing any kind of pass defense if it involves anything other than Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward making a play. And I think that they're going to stay away from just trying to hyper target Denzel Ward and maybe letting Myles Garrett wreck the game again. And there's not going to be snow this time. So, yeah, he finished with 270 and 1 that very easily could have been 350 and 3. I feel really, really good about this matchup this week. Of course, this is contingent upon Myles Garrett not being a generational athlete and ruining it like he did last time. I feel great about Russ this week. I think he's going to cook. I mean, we saw him. I mean, he's averaging in these starts since he started starting in week 7. He's averaging the most passing yards for any stretch of his career. So we see what the Arthur Smith offense does. I pegged this in the offseason. I was like, hey, if Arthur Smith has a quarterback that's not a complete like kid that wears the Velcro shoes at quarterback, if he doesn't have a guy like that and he has a real quarterback, the offense works. We saw it work with Tannehill. Like, it just didn't work in Atlanta because for the aforementioned reasons. So, yeah, Russ, give me Russ. Let Russ cook. Russ is probably going to finish top 10 again this week.
Yeah, he's kind of like a silent, almost like a league winner at this stage when you think about, the points he could potentially get and the strength of schedule he has coming on. Like, I mean, in 2 quarterback leagues, he's almost like a set it and forget it at stage at this point with how well the Steelers are playing.
If it hadn't been for his preseason injury, he would be exactly the quarterback that we had him pegged for before the season started.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Biggs, who do you got?
Well, I got a quarterback who he's had an up and down season, a lot more downs than ups. But last week he went into a holiday game on the road against a Super Bowl contender and a team that suppresses quarterback play to the tune of fewer than 20 points per game. And Aidan O'Connell had one of the better games of his career. Four of his 5 deepest completions this season came last week against Kansas City on his first game back after his thumb injury, and taking over again the role that we knew that he should play from the beginning of the season, and that's starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. That Las Vegas Raiders offensive line has finally started to put stuff together. They did allow a running back room to rush for the second most yards of the season against the Chiefs. And Aidan O'Connell had 340 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So that was a pretty darn good game. And this week he gets to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at the very bottom of the league in terms of fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. They're 0.4 points per game ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 31st. They allow 24.8 points per game. It's going to be a situation where Baker Mayfield's going to be chucking the ball. The Raiders are going to be chucking the ball. Aidan O'Connell is going to benefit from that. He's got Jacoby Myers, who's a top 24 wide receiver. He's got Trey Tucker, who's a fairly ample deep threat, and he throws dimes to Tucker. And he's got the tight end one. He's attached to serious weapons in fantasy. And I think this is the emergence of Aidan O'Connell that we saw at the end of the season last year. And for some reason, Luke Getsy had something wrong with his brain and went away from him. And this is the Aidan O'Connell that I was expecting coming into the 2024 season. He's got a great schedule over the next few weeks, and it starts with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, Biggs, we were hoping that Aidan O'Connell was the starter. We talked about it already in depth. Like, fuck, can you imagine, maybe Devontae Adams would still be there, and they could be they could actually be in that division. I mean, Denver's played well and the Chargers have played well, which we thought that maybe they weren't going to be as good to start the year. And the Raiders, I have them pegged as second seed in that division headed into the season with Aidan O'Connell at the helm. It just sucks that did not come to fruition for that team, because you can see the upside now.
Well, even playing the maybe game on opening day against the Chargers, I watched the Raiders defense, which was top 5 in the second half of the season last year. After McDaniels left and Patrick Graham got to play the way that he wanted to, then they added Christian Wilkins. And that defense absolutely shut the Chargers down for the first 3 quarters of the game. But Gardner Minshew couldn't do anything to keep the Raiders on the field and the Raiders defense off it. And you saw them completely wear down. And we knew from game 1 that was going to start becoming a trend, and it happened against Carolina, and it happened against Baltimore, and it kept happening. Now, if we want to play the maybe game, maybe Aidan O'Connell keeps the Raiders offense on the field to the point where Christian Wilkins doesn't suffer an injury because he's not overworked. Those kinds of things. So it's a domino effect. It's one piece after the other, and it all started with the hiring of Luke Getsy. But now, again, halfway into the season, we're looking at a second half resurgence the same way that we did last year. It's just like they have to learn at some point. And Aidan O'Connell is a perfectly cromulent NFL quarterback. He just needs to get the chance.
Well, I mean, and we said it last year. I mean, who put the Chiefs on the pace to winning the Super Bowl last year? Was that loss on Christmas Day against the Raiders. Now the Raiders play them tight every year, at least once or twice a year. And, they did it again this year. Aidan O'Connell has shown poise. He didn't look stressed out in the pocket whatsoever, especially in the 2-minute drill. The guy looked good, and we said it in this offseason. I was hoping that he would come in. I have some Aidan O'Connell shares that are starting to come back into play, but he could have been a consistent number 3 for me all year long, and it just sucks that it didn't happen. Now, I'm going to get into my start of the week here, and it's going to probably make Chev a little bit happy because another Tennessee Titan is getting showcased on this show, and it wasn't on purpose, I swear to you. But I think that Tony Pollard is in a really good situation this week. He's playing the Jags. He's got a solid track record, a good versatile skill set, and he's poised to deliver a good performance this week. 14 fantasy points per game this year. He's average. He's RB21 on the year, 7 of 9 games with 10 plus fantasy points, 100 rushing yards per game in the lead role. And the Jaguars, they give up the 4th most receiving yards against opposing running backs. So I just think that Pollard's in position for a good game. He's a high upside RB2 in week 14, thanks to his consistent production, the matchup, and his all-round game. Even with Tajay Spears coming back, I think he's still going to carve out himself out a role this week in the passing game. But Tajay Spears is in a position here to really thrive. I liked Coach Retzlaff's call on Will Levis. This week he's got the upside here in a passing upside, but I think that the Tennessee Titans are going to be in position to score this week, and I think Tony Pollard is going to sneak into the end zone.
Well, Mike, to your point, Tony Pollard is 5th in targets, 51, and then 9th in receptions with 37. So it could really be a good connection there, sneaky connection. If you play DFS, Levis to Pollard connection, people aren't always playing the stack there. So I like that call, Mike. I like.
What are
where
your
head's
thoughts on that, Chev, on the Pollard call? I know that Tajay Spears, I like his situation coming back from the injury, but we got to be treading carefully. What are your thoughts on Tajay before we end the show here and the Tony Pollard call?
I'm no longer threatened by Tajay at all. Last week, Tony Pollard played 73% of the snaps. That was the worst game script you could ask for a bell cow that had been used in the way that Tony Pollard had been used previously and the history of Tajay's usage. So he handled 73% of the snaps. He got 12 opportunities. He had 68 yards. I mean, you're thrilled with that with 3 receptions if he falls into the end zone. This is a way better opportunity. The Jags play cover 2 man at the highest rate in the NFL, at like over 6% of their snaps. So I'm thrilled about having Tony Pollard, having Tony Pollard your start of the week on my show. Our show, whatever. I'm the only one on here, so I'm going to call it my show. Yeah. On the 2 Guys 1 Pod show, I made Tony Pollard my running back start of the week. So yes, I am thrilled with that. I loved Will Levis being a start of the week. Like my co-host made Calvin Ridley his start of the week to go along with Will Levis. So I'm pretty excited about what the Titans can do this week against the Jaguars, who just don't really have any clue on how to get stops, unless they're playing the Vikings, apparently.
Did you do a Jaguars Titans head-to-head uncovered?
With Schultzy?
No, Schultzy's out of town.
Oh, okay. It's also a divisional matchup, and I was in the Fantasy Cares chat last night. There's my second touchdown from Jared Goff. My parlay's doing good too. Last night, right now.
Tim Badger touchdown.
Last night, right now, yesterday, tonight.
No, I was involved in the Fantasy Cares broadcast when Scott Fish was setting his smash up lineup, and they started looking at defenses, and I think he went with Tennessee. And I tried to get into the chat and say it's a divisional game, and both defenses are equally good. Fade both of them. This is just like the game last night. Right now is turning out in a divisional matchup with 2 teams going head to head. They're going to score a lot of points, so you're going to want to have guys on both sides of the ball that are scoring for you in fantasy, because these defenses are not going to be stopping people.
Wow. That show, guys, I'm sorry that we took up 45 minutes on Bucky Irving, but that was really good chat. We had some good heated discussions back and forth, and it's all in good fun, you guys. I love you all.
I like to think we took that long discussing Rashad White, but, whatever you want to think.
We're going to take the better asset.
Future Charger, Rashad White.
Future Winnipeg Blue Bomber Rashad White.
How great would that be?
Future cement cleat salesman.
Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Actually, I'm actually gonna pre-order his jersey now. He's coming to the Peg and playing the CFL. No.
Mike, I'll wait until his value goes a little lower to buy that jersey.
All right, folks. We love you all. Thanks for tuning in to the Dynasty Pulse on the Fantasy Football Plus Network and the Undroppables, of course, where we're all represented really, really well. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Biggs, tell us. Do it.
Unless your name is Jax Falcone, we hope you win.
We hope you win, folks. Peace.
We hope you win.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope, go out and win.